The winter months are a perfect time to get out and prune your fruit trees, apples and pears in particular. Don't go pruning your stone fruit this time of year, so trees such as cherries, plums, damsons, apricots, nectarines, they should all be left until the summer months because they can be very prone to a disease called silverleaf if they're pruned during the winter. Apples and pears, however, you're fine to get started on those this time of year. Now, the main reasons for pruning your fruit trees in the winter are to remove congested fruiting spurs, to remove branches that are just growing out where you don't want them, to get the tree back into a nice shape, and also to remove any dead, diseased and damaged growth. And that's the main reasons that I prune the apple trees up here. And before you get started, another important thing is you've got to have the right tools for the job. So a good pair of secateurs is essential. I like these ones in particular. It doesn't really matter as long as you're comfortable with them and they are clean and sharp, and that's the key thing. Good sharp blades give you a nice clean cut. I also find a pruning saw really handy for some of the thicker growth. There we go. And that's a fantastic piece of kit. That goes back into the tool belt, which again is really handy. And then the final piece of kit that I often use are the bypass loppers, and these are great for those slightly harder to reach branches and again for the slightly thicker material. So the main reasons for me pruning the apple trees here is that they're really prone to canker. It's partly due to the part of the country we're in. We do get very high rainfall, it's very wet here, we have very high humidity, and the ground itself is quite acidic and it's a fairly heavy soil as well, and that just predisposes the trees to this nasty fungal disease, otherwise known as canker. So you can see here, this is a branch that I've just removed from this little tree next to me. It's Ribston Pippin, which is a rather nice dessert apple, but unfortunately it seems to be particularly susceptible to this. Now, this is what the canker does. It often gets in either through a bud, which is probably what's happened here, or through a damaged part of the branches. And see, it just gradually destroys the bark and essentially eats away at it, and ultimately it will weaken it, and this branch probably would break in due course if I didn't remove it. This was particularly badly affected. You can see there's more of it up here, and there's a piece that's already broken off the tree. And then when we get right to the tip, we've got quite a bit of this on this tree, and it's where branches have been crossing over and rubbing, and the fungus gets in through these damaged areas, and then you can see the cankers developing at the bottom here, and there's a bit more of it around the side. So really badly affected little tree. However, there's plenty of growth on here, so if it just gets a good tidy up, and I can take out all of the dead, the diseased and the damaged wood, and then have a good look at what's left and remove any branches that are crossing over and starting to rub, because that again will be another source, another route into the tree for the fungal disease. I want to remove anything like that if I possibly can. Now, these are the secateurs that I've been using for removing the disease growth. The best way to do this is actually to remove all the disease stuff first, give your secateurs a good clean with something like Jay's fluid, and then you can come back and actually start to remove any of the healthy growth that still needs to come out, because potentially, say, it's going to cross over and rub and ultimately become diseased and damaged in the long run. However, I'm in the middle of the orchard with no Jay's fluid handy, so I've got a spare pair of secateurs here for tackling the healthy stuff. So it's not difficult to find infected pieces on this tree. So here's another piece. So when I'm cutting them off, you want to make a nice clean cut, either right up against a branch or just above a bud. So if I show you on here, you see this is the piece I've taken off, and that's where I removed it, because you can see there's really bad canker on there. But if I just wanted to maybe leave, I could have left that bit on the tree, but I've decided not to because it was in a really bad place. But what I could have done was actually just make a nice clean cut on a 45-degree angle above that bud. And that's what you want to be leaving when you prune the tree. You don't want to leave very much above here, because potentially that could get infected and just die back, and it just keeps it all very neat and clean and tidy. So I won't have to look far to find some more. There's another piece here. Now this one I am going to actually again take off right down here, because because that piece was growing back up into the centre of the tree and potentially was just going to cause problems later on by rubbing against other branches. So again, it's really easy to spot the canker. That piece hadn't developed too much, but it was only going to get worse over time. Now all of this material, rather than being shredded and composted or used as a mulch, really with this material that's got the canker in it, you should just either be burning it if you can have a bonfire, otherwise put it into the green waste recycling or take it to the local tip, because you don't want to be putting the fungal spores back onto the ground in your garden. You want to remove them if possible. There will always be some canker in this tree. I'm never going to eradicate it completely, but it's more a case of just trying to keep it under control here. If, however, it's just a mild case of canker in your tree, then you probably can get rid of all the infected material and keep it in check that way. But I just want to try and keep this tree as healthy as possible so that we can have a good crop of apples in years to come. So it's going to keep me busy, I think, for a while, this one. So I'll change secateurs and I'll start to take out some of the healthy growth, which seems a shame to cut it off. But you see here, there's just a big jumble up of branches. They're all crisscrossing and rubbing, and so in time these will actually become damaged and then they will become infected with the canker as well. So it's better to remove them at this stage while they're still healthy, and then hopefully I can retain as much growth as possible. So I'm going to get snipping. You see, that's a little bit better. That's opened that up a bit more now. There's still room for more work to be done, but that's not a bad start. I don't want to shock the tree by taking off too much in one go either. Probably about the third of the growth really is an absolute maximum in any one pruning session. Otherwise, it's just too much of a shock to the tree and it could stress it. So that'll do on this area for now.